Morning and welcome to Social Media Pie. This is my LinkedIn Live interview series where I bring on inspiring people like Kevin D. Turner to inform and educate you. Hey, Kevin, how you doing today?
Fantastic, Brenda. I truly appreciate you having me here today, and lots of exciting things going on. So it's always great to share those.
This is going to be such a fun chat, Kevin. And you and I were talking in the pre-show before we were getting started, and I was kind of like, "How do you hear?" I mean, I was getting into some of the questions I was going to ask. I'm like, "Hold off, don't tell me. Let's wait and have everybody hear your responses on here because you're so knowledgeable about everything LinkedIn."
LinkedIn. I spend too many hours a day on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn since 2005, February, and every day.
Yeah.
So anytime something was breaking, I was looking at it, I was figuring it out, and I've developed some relationships over the years with people. I would say inside LinkedIn and
inside, right?
LinkedIn. And it's one of those things that as I notice things, or as others kind of within my group notice things, they'll come to me and say, "Hey, what is this? Am I insane? Did the profile just change and I don't get it?" And those kind of things happen. That was actually how we launched the information about the new profile change.
Oh yeah.
In November, it hit Jeff Young, and Jeff Young
really? He was the first one?
Weird on my profile, and I said, "Well, no, mine's the normal profile." So we started taking shots, normal and new, normal and new, and normal and new, and that's how we built that flyer that went out that said, "Here's what's going to happen."
Yeah.
So often it takes a group of people, but people know to come to me. We'll work together. We'll figure this out. And then I always give credit in the process because that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who heard about it first?
And I love doing it. So to me, that's kind of part of the process.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, before we get too deep, I mean, we're already you guys can tell we're just so excited to talk about, what's new on LinkedIn here today. But before we do that, just want a brief welcome to all of you who are watching. And I'm already seeing the chat lighting up, and I'm going to start to drop your comments on screen. But when you comment, we know that you're watching. It's kind of like in the pre-pandemic days, we would tap on the microphone and say, "Can you guys hear me in the back?" And the people would wave or they'd do the gesture, "No, we can't hear you." So the comments actually let us know that the live stream is working. So please do comment. Let us know where you're watching from. And I put a little tip. I don't know if you've noticed this, Kevin. Sometimes when you comment in a LinkedIn Live, your screen freezes and then you lose it and you got to go back. Here's what I do. Watch it on your laptop and then pull it up on your phone and comment on your phone. That way you don't get any disruption in the live stream that's happening. Little hack there. And Kevin and I know each other from, I think it's from the Rockstar list. When I put together this Meller Marketing LinkedIn Rockstar list, you were one of the people. I have to go to our messaging history and see if I remember exactly when. But I just know you, Kevin, is, the TNT brand strategist. I know you're the guy. I always talk about this to people. Kevin's the guy who always gives us a heads up on features before anyone else. That's in my mind what your personal brand is. But Kevin, why don't you take a few minutes, tell a little bit about yourself and your business for those who don't know you.
Well, and I love that fact that you look at that as part of my personal brand. And in a way it is. I like to kind of stay ahead of the LinkedIn curve. But my business itself is branding. It's personal branding. I always say I eliminate personal blanding.
I love it.
Tendency, they get on LinkedIn, they throw that profile together just fast enough to get out there, and then they start, posting things and writing things and commenting things, and they wonder why nothing ever happens. And you go back to their profile, and it is so bland, right? There's 3 shades of gray at the top. It's a terrible picture of them with their dog. There's no information filled out, and it's bland. And they've done it to themselves. So, that's one of the things I do is I help actually individuals and organizations kind of fix their blanding issues.
Do you do professional bios too, or do you only do LinkedIn profiles? I'm curious.
I do promotional bios, LinkedIn profiles. We even get into resumes and things along that line. I actually work with my wife. That's T. She's the other T. And so we work together. She's been a freelance writer for over, well, I won't say how many years, but
Well, the reason I asked, I just had a client reach out to me yesterday, and I did his LinkedIn profile for him, but now he wants a professional bio written. And I'm like, I could do it, I just don't enjoy it, and I needed to send him somewhere. So I'm probably going to talk to you after the call here today.
Oh, yeah, because we do enjoy it. And that's the best part.
Yeah, part of the reason I ask these questions, I mean, Kevin, this is like really we've been on a couple group calls before, but before joining just this morning, we really haven't had a chance to get to know each other. But I always prefer to do these conversations in a live setting because we learn more about each other, and your network learn more about you through the process. And you can see, I don't know if you've noticed some of the other names that are popping in here. I went through the rock star list, and I invited like every person on the list.
I think I did the same. So they got double whammied, maybe.
Right? Well, is it though? If you send them an invite, they only get it once unless they accept it, or do they get it twice? Could they potentially?
If you're going through the list and the box doesn't have a check mark area,
yeah, right.
You can't send them one because they already got one.
So if you sent them one, they wouldn't get a second one from me. Then I would think.
That's right.
Right. Okay, good.
And I know I probably threw 100 out there. So
that's awesome. No.
Yeah.
And I know like this is the kind of conversation too. Like I love doing these live because we do get a lot of conversations, happening in the chat as we're going throughout, and we'll do some Q&A and whatnot later, but we're also going to get a lot of people watching it in playback. So it's going to be valuable information wherever you get it, whether it's live or in the playback. So let's jump right in, Kevin. Let's talk about what's new on LinkedIn right now. It's, today's February 8th, 2022. LinkedIn's rolling out little things here and there. What's the latest thing that is new on LinkedIn that you've seen?
I think it's the hottest thing. And of course it was announced at the end of the year, and into the first of the month. And that is audio events. So social audio has been big. It exploded in 2020 because we all needed a little extra touch, right?
Right.
We were locked into our places. We couldn't go to work. We couldn't do this. We couldn't do that. We couldn't go to movies. So we all did the social audio piece. Clubhouse was huge. LinkedIn was watching it. LinkedIn was involved over at Clubhouse every night. You could find all the top leadership at LinkedIn at Clubhouse. If you wanted to build a relationship with LinkedIn, that was the place.
Wasn't that crazy? And you could like hear from them and sometimes they bring up people up on stage to ask questions. It's like, wait a minute, why are we leaving LinkedIn to go talk to people that work at LinkedIn? Like, let's go back to.
And they were never allowed to do that on LinkedIn, right? I think some of them even got the old, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
But they did it anyway. And people are always saying, well, why did it take them so long to get social audio? And, if you're building a company like Clubhouse on social audio, it's a certain amount of time, right? If you're taking a platform like LinkedIn that's built on some pretty old technology, if you can believe it or not, Jeff Young always considered it spaghetti wiring, spaghetti coding, right? Stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff. So for them to make this audio work, this interactive, they spent tens of millions of dollars bringing in new technology stacks.
Sure.
The advancement for LinkedIn means a lot of new things can happen now that could never happen before. So they wanted to do this a year ago. They couldn't do it because the old technology wouldn't have held it. It would have been lousy, and that's not how you launch something like that. So
now you're part of the creator community, aren't you?
Yes.
Now, is it called creator community? I'm not sure if I'm using the right term. I've got creator mode, but that's different than the community that you're a part of. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in the creator community, or there's a couple different terms everybody uses for it. Basically meant that somebody at LinkedIn recognized you as somebody who is producing consistent content, right? That they want to help improve that content. And I always say, follow the money on LinkedIn, right? Why would LinkedIn want to invest in people making better content? Because the better the content on LinkedIn, the more the members come, right? And the more they stay, and the more they devour, and the more community they build. And while they're doing that, they're perfecting their profiles, which is LinkedIn's business. LinkedIn sells us as members, to recruiters, to, talent groups. That's their business. So it all kind of fits in. So LinkedIn went out and actually hired initially, I think it was 15 creator managers that had experience, doing viral things on TikTok or, YouTube, all these kind of things. They have all this background experience, very little LinkedIn experience. And they brought people with a lot of LinkedIn experience and content. And they brought us all together as a group to kind of figure out, how do we do this better?
Yeah.
And it's a neat program. I think right now there's maybe 600 people in the program.
Wow. Okay.
And they did another program too, where they actually took 100 of those
Mm-hmm.
before that, and they invested about 15 grand.
I remember that. There was like a contest.
Yeah,
and it was
yeah, and we have some friends
everybody's
that
like,
are in
"Are you
there.
going to compete?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like I could compete, or I could just get a couple more clients and get the 15. Like, it was like a toss up, because I always, like you, I like to get the newest features, all the bells and whistles. But were you a part of that group? Are you able to say, or is this like we can't talk about Fight Club?
Missed the cut. but
I wonder, I mean, because
they sent me a little consolation, which was nice, but they said maybe next time. And I said, okay.
Okay.
And then next time was kind of the creator community that they were really building. And part of the advantage of that is you do have a more structured communication, right? An avenue that you can go into LinkedIn when you see things, when you have questions, when you need help, when you want to present a better feature. There's now a process through that piece. And, all of that came about with creator mode, which you mentioned earlier. When they
which is different than the creator community that we're talking about, right? Yes. So there's kind of 3 levels. There's the 100 people that were in the contest.
Creator
accelerator. Yep. And then the middle one, is it called creator community, or what are they calling that?
Creator program is
creator program.
The official term. Okay. Yeah. Sounds kind of dry, but yeah.
And then we've got creator mode. And some people may not even be familiar. I mean, I still consider that newer. Kevin, would you say it's still newer, or do you think it's kind of well known enough now?
I think for a lot of people it's still new. And when it launched, they had all these things in mind of what it was going to do. And they launched it, and that was before this technology stack investment came in, right? And it went out there, and people were like, it didn't do that. It didn't make me, more viewable. It didn't get me more people following me. It didn't make my content go viral. This stuff doesn't work. And when it really initially launched, all creator mode was, for the most part, was a reorganization of your profile, which I think has an advantage, right? Because it looks different from anybody else. That was like the big thing that it really, and they should have just said, this is what it is today, and we got plans to build it further later. And they didn't really explain that well. So a lot of people just kind of pushed it aside.
Yeah. And,
very quickly, towards the end of last year, they went out and they gave 2 things in what we call the Creator Hub. That's part of creator mode. Those are tools that creators get. They gave them access to live.
Okay. Like everybody has access to live now, right?
Well, with creator mode.
With creator mode, if you have creator mode turned on, you have access to live.
You have an automatic application to live.
Okay.
So you still have to be approved. If you are naughty, right? And they might say, we're not going to give you the ability to broadcast on our platform if you've been bad behavior in the past. So
so if you've had your hand slapped, or if you've had people report you, or other things have happened, you're on a watch list, maybe you're not going to be given that access.
And I've been in jail a couple of times.
Have you?
With LinkedIn. It's not that kind of stuff that gets you in trouble.
Right.
It's things like I got into the code, or I scraped content, or I had 150 fake profiles. That's the kind of people that they're saying no live for you.
Right.
Or no newsletter for you.
Yeah.
So pretty much anybody who turns that creator mode on, if you're a good member of
good citizen
LinkedIn,
of the community.
you're getting in. You're going to have the opportunity to do that.
So let's change gears a little bit, Kevin, because I'm kind of curious, and I asked you this in our pre-call today. How do you hear about the new features? I mean, we're here talking about what's new on LinkedIn. Like, how does Kevin have like the bat phone where like LinkedIn calls him like, Kevin, okay, we're launching a new feature. You got to tell me, like, how are you hearing about these things?
Part of it is just what I do. I'm on LinkedIn 12 hours a day, right? Yeah. Every day. And I actually, I do a digital detox every 2 weeks. I take a full day away. I turn off I even turn off my cell phone. Yeah. Go away for a day, because I have to, because I stay on there so long. That's where I discover a lot of the things. And sometimes it's just small differences you notice. And then I will do things like I'll look into the code, the source code, to see what's in there. If you notice something and you look in there and it says, it's null, or it's there's ways to tell what's coming in that process.
And what you're referring to is like, I mean, you could do this on any website, right? The right click, use source code of a web page, right? So it's not like we're hacking the system or anything. I mean, it's
No.
just, it's understanding. I do this sometimes when I'm working with a client and they're like, I don't know where my logo is, but it's on my homepage. And I'm like, well, I can grab it from your code. You know, it's basic
Exactly.
stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you look in there and you find things. We knew about dark mode a year and a half ago. You know, it's still
Wait,
trying
what's
to
that?
make
Because
its
some
way
people
out.
might be going dark mode. What's he talking about? I don't have that. What is that? And how do they turn that on?
Dark mode is just that if you're sensitive, your eyes are sensitive, or you're staying on the computer a long time, this bright white, and LinkedIn's got a lot of this white, creamy, beigey stuff going on, right? It can hurt your eyes. And so if you're end of the day, your eyes are irritated or you're getting a migraine, you go to what's called dark mode and they replace with the opposite color, right? So white would actually be black. The cream beige might be dark gray. And so it just kind of lightens that load a little bit. Believe it or not, it makes your computer last longer too. It doesn't burn your screen, makes your battery last longer, which is nice. And if you're outside in the sun, you've got the opportunity to work in the park, right?
Oh, that's brilliant.
You can do that. So dark mode's great. It's available on the mobile for almost everybody. And now it's available for most everybody, and it's still rolling out on desktop.
Okay.
And so on desktop, you go into settings and you look for preferences. You look for display. And if you see a thing that says display, that means you've got dark mode. And you can go in there and you can select light, dark, or device, which means it gets the signal from your device if you've chosen dark mode on your devices.
Okay.
That's basically it. And I love it. I do a lot on it, and I switch back and forth.
I was gonna say, and I think I remember when you first saw it, didn't you do like a comparison? Like, here's what's different, because there's some, like, there's ways that your logo and your banner sit. They look differently because of the dark mode versus the regular white mode, right?
It's like you're redecorating your apartment, right?
Yeah.
If it was all in white and then all of a sudden you paint all the walls black, everything else stands out. So that's basically what it is. You're putting it on top of another color. So now, if you're really thinking about it, when you design things around profiles, you know, the imagery of a profile is as important, if not sometimes more important, than the text itself.
Yeah.
You have to consider, well, how does it also look in dark mode?
That's
Or
interesting.
how does it look in light mode if I'm one of those dark mode people? And the younger people are, the more likely they are to go to dark mode.
I think that's kind of interesting too, how depending on who you're serving, who your audience is, you got to think about not just what your preferences are, but what is your audience going to do? You know, if they are a younger audience, there's more likelihood. And there's even people, different preferences, that just prefer dark mode. It's easier on the eyes, as you said.
My daughter used to go, oh, that's what LinkedIn looks like in all white, you know?
Right? Like, because she doesn't turn it on. Like, she has it in her
she would
own
never
mode.
have it that way.
Yeah. So there's not a place that you're going, Kevin. There's not like a blog or a web page that's like product announcements, feature announcements, where you're seeing these things. These are just, you're stumbling upon them. People are telling you about the new features that are coming out.
And we're sharing. So there's always that kind of group that helps me do that. And then the other piece of that is, if you know a few people inside, you can ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you get it right, they stop talking. Right?
Oh, that's, they get quiet on you.
I had one. We were beta testing audio the other day, and I use a beta from Chrome called Live Transcript. So it does the transcription. So I'm listening to an audio, right? And there's some LinkedIn people on the stage, and I've got this transcription on the side. And one of the things I do when I go into an audio room is every time a speaker comes on, I'll take a screenshot and send that to the speaker, just saying, hey, I always wish when I was on stage, somebody would have got a picture, right? And so it starts a relationship. Well, this individual is head of the product at the time, or still at the time. And he sees this transcription on the side. He goes, oh, you already have transcriptions already. They're not due for another 2 weeks.
Uh-oh. Whoops.
And I said, well, no.
Well, that's good to know. No, I want to be careful.
Sometimes you find out by mistake.
I want to be careful with our conversation here today, Kevin, because I don't want us to get I don't want to get my hand slapped, and I don't want to lose live access, and I don't want to disclose things that LinkedIn may not want us to be talking about. So I'm gonna pull the car back onto the track again. And we're here today. If you guys are joining us here late, I'm here with Kevin D. Turner, who is I like to call him one of the Meller Marketing LinkedIn rock stars. He's one of the people you want to follow on LinkedIn. And there's many of us who are part of this LinkedIn community that are not employees of LinkedIn, but we just help people on the platform. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways we help is by showcasing some of the newer features. So today we're talking about what's new on LinkedIn. In a little bit, we're going to move into Q&A. So if you have questions about new features, you can drop those into chat now. But so let's talk a little bit about, you said you listen to others in the LinkedIn community. And some people might go, Brenda, why do you got Kevin on? He does some stuff that you do. Isn't that competition? What's your philosophy on that, Kevin? And as it relates to what's new on LinkedIn?
Well, if I had 98% of the global market for branding, I might find you competition, right? If I had 1%, I might find, no, there's so much out there that, people who are smart and entrepreneurs and I think very nimble, agile businesses get it, that you can collaborate with somebody who might compete on a project, but not on a direct project. The scope is so big. The world is so big, right? And it's all there. And that's the beauty of LinkedIn, is you're not stuck to, middle of Iowa or Texas or wherever we are. You have this opportunity for this huge reach. There's plenty for everybody, right? So, if you work with others, you get better, they get better, and as we were talking earlier, you've got something you're going, hey, maybe this will fit you. And I will find things that I'll go, hey, this is probably better served by Brenda and her group. So, you trade those things back and forth and everybody does more.
Yeah, it's the abundance mentality, and I just dropped it on screen. So I know there's people watching right now that share this abundance mentality. If that's you guys, if you're watching this right now, if you have an abundance mentality as well, go ahead and type me in the comments, just the word ME in comments right now, because there is, like your point, Kevin, there's plenty of business to go around, and we actually learn more and we do more, and we can achieve more by supporting each other and giving each other these heads up on features. Now, Kevin, I know if I ever see a new feature, I typically go to your profile and you've already talked about it. You've done a post or something on it. But you're saying you are hearing about these newer features from other people first sometimes. Are they, like Jeff Young, you mentioned earlier, are they stumbling upon it and they're coming to you and saying, do you know anything about it yet? And then you research it. Is that how things happen?
That's usually how it happens. Jillian, Whitney's been really good. There's been a few others out there. John Asperian.
I was just thinking, I know John's watching right now. I'm going to give Jillian and John both a shout out in comments in case people haven't seen them. They're good at learning those things as well. Do you find that people come to you and say, hey, I just stumbled upon this. I know that you talk about it. Can you do your thing? Can you broadcast it out?
And sometimes I will do the same. When I find something, I've got a group of people that I'll throw it out there, go, have you seen this? Right. And they're like, yeah, I have, or I haven't, or no, that's cool. Let's dive into it. Whoever usually comes up with it first, or finds it first when you're sharing with that group, they usually have kind of first dibs to throw it out there. Yeah. But sometimes that person who finds it goes, I don't want to introduce this. You know this stuff better than I do.
Yeah.
Let's flush it out together and just give me some credit. That works extremely well. It kind of keeps everything together. One of those things that I do with the new LinkedIn feature articles is, anytime somebody finds it in the wild, anytime somebody, produces a great post on it, those are the kind of things we're linking to. So people can find out more information about it and really kind of figure out, where did it come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what we're learning on your own. What we're learning too, Kevin, is when the features come out, it doesn't roll out to everybody consistently. And we don't know what the rhyme or reason is. Is it industry? Is it number of connections? Is it geography? I mean, forget. Oh, you do? Okay. Don't say it, because I don't want to get my LinkedIn live banned.
No, this is something that they don't mind you talking about.
Is it like public knowledge? I just don't want to get us in trouble for sharing it.
It is. It's kind of a best practice for the industry, right? So if you've got this huge network using a resource like LinkedIn, if you introduce a feature and it goes out there and the whole resource crashes,
oh yeah,
and you and I don't have LinkedIn for 4 days while they're trying to put it all back together, we get pretty mad, right? And we go find another platform if that happens too often. They know that. So what LinkedIn does, it does kind of a share the pain. They do rollouts. They're in normally 5 waves.
Okay.
The waves increase, right, as you go along.
Okay.
And they're always randomized. That way, you're not always kind of the victim of what's new, because sometimes what's new goes away, or what's new breaks everything else and your count's down. So they randomize that sample and then they increase it. If everything's going well, the waves keep moving.
Okay.
Normal rollout is 30 to 60 days. That's kind of normal.
Okay.
Dark mode has been rolling out since March of last year, and it's still not out to everybody. So some of them have complications as they go along, and they actually split that, because at one point it was mobile and desktop all together. Now it's mobile and desktop separate.
Oh, so interesting. So they're learning and they're adjusting as they're going through this.
Sometimes it's great to be the first wave. Sometimes it's really bad to be the first wave. Sometimes people who are in the first wave don't even realize it until about the third wave, when everybody else tells them they already had it.
Oh yeah, like, oh, I've noticed that difference. Now I've noticed too, Kevin, that sometimes there's newer features that roll out and I don't have them yet. And maybe it's a desktop feature, but then I update my LinkedIn mobile app and then I have it in both places. I don't know. Am I crazy, or is there any correlation to that?
There can be. A mobile, if it's a mobile created product, right? Like, let's say Cover Stories last year, or actually a year before, wasn't it? That was mobile created.
Okay.
And that's why you can't produce it on your desktop. You got to do it through your mobile. So in that instant, to get that particular new feature, you had to update your app. Now, the nice thing about it, they figured it out. You used to delete the app and then go back to the App Store and, re-put the app in again. Now you can actually go to the App Store, tap on the app, and it will update.
Update it. There you go.
Yeah, so that's much better, much faster. But I suggest doing that on your mobile whenever you remember, at least once a month, because
whenever you talk about it, you don't know about. We were just talking about it, and I just did a quick video because I'm going to post this on Instagram later, because I can't do it as a LinkedIn stories because they are gone. But to remind people to update your LinkedIn app. So if you guys are watching right now, go into your app on your phone and just click on update, making sure that you're getting the latest features there on LinkedIn. Hey, Kevin, I'm going to start to change gears a little bit, and we're going to start to move into some Q&A, because I know there's a lot of people that are watching. And I want to thank, there's so many people who are on my Rockstars list I invited to come along for the conversation today. And I see a lot of them on here. And if you guys are aware of any new features, we've talked about live audio. And Kevin, I know you've done a handful of those so far, right? I know I was on one with you last week, but how many of those have you done so far?
What's that?
Three so far, you said?
3 so far.
Okay.
And each one, we're learning something every single time. And, again, I think the biggest change I've seen in LinkedIn is the fact that they're listening. They're developing with us, as opposed to producing something and giving it to us. And it's a little frustrating right now, because this is a beta and everybody like, I want it. What we see today is probably not what we're going to get when it rolls out. It's going to be that much better. We are identifying things every day, and LinkedIn is really listening and communicating back. So when we say this doesn't work, I'd love it if it did this, they ask more questions.
Yeah.
And so, that's a great thing. Haven't seen that on LinkedIn in, 15 years. So nice to see it back. That was the way it was when it began.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the value.
Okay. I see a couple comments coming in. I'm going to keep that conversation flowing here. Angus is saying Mark Williams has a blog. Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely.
Where he talks about some of the new features. And I'm gonna do a shout out to Mark in the comments right now, making sure he knows we're talking about him. But he does. I think he's got like a podcast and a couple other things where he talks about some of the newer features too. Ashwin says, Kevin says this is out. Like I guess he's talking about the new features. You're kind of announcing the new features, and then he's having to wait forever. Is there any way to speed up that process? If you see a new feature and you don't have it yet and you want it, I remember Cover Stories, those videos when they first rolled out on our profile, and they were launched for job seekers, for people in career transition, to announce themselves to hiring managers. And it was probably 3 months ago, Kevin. And it was like, at this time, I thought everybody had them. And we were on a job seeker VIP call, and like half the group didn't even have it yet. We did a post on LinkedIn and we tagged LinkedIn help in, and then they gave them access. Any tips for people? If there's a feature that's been out for a while and they don't have it, how do we get it?
And, that was probably a sign of them not updating their mobile app. And so, LinkedIn probably pushed an update, is basically what they did, which is great. But yeah, normally they're not going to break their 5 waves and insert somebody. It's almost, I can't even get it done for me. So like the new profile that we talked about launching, towards the end of last year, I didn't get mine until probably 30 days ago.
Wow.
But I knew about it and we documented it. And, part of, what I did is I went and said, okay, let's take that document. I'm going to redo my profile to fit the new look when it comes. So it still works with the current look.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just have to work with the information and just wait your turn.
And it is hard.
It's frustrating.
And it's hard too, Kevin, when you're training people on LinkedIn or you're helping them with their profile, and like one change I know in the profile, it was in the preview of the about statement, it was 3 lines before. And in the new one, it's 4 lines. So I'm kind of like, I'm leaning towards training people the new way because I know it's going to come, but they're looking at their screen and they're saying, wait, I can only see 3 lines. So it's a little bit confusing.
It is. And I always say, that's going to be kind of like your subcategory, right? Your sub ad. So, think of it in that way. In the future, it's going to mean more. Right now, they won't see it till they open it, but it's still important because once they open it, if those first few lines aren't capturing you, right?
Absolutely. If they're bland, right?
Yeah. So it all works either way. So, that's critical.
So talk to us, Sarah Burgess. Hey, Sarah, how are you? Hey. Sarah's talking about the bell. Talk to us about the bell. What is it? Does everyone have it? Do you know? And why should we care about this bell that's on our profiles now?
And this has been one of those, I think, miserable rollouts in the sense that it's taken so long. It started last year. Basically, the bell is if you go to somebody's profile and you notice on their top card over to the, would that be right-hand side, if you see a silhouette of a bell, right? If you click on that silhouette of that bell, it then turns kind of a dark gray or a light gray, but it changes colors. It's not a silhouette anymore. And that basically means when that individual posts anything, in the sense of post, like a post, a poll, article, not so much when they comment on things. When they do that, basically, at that point, you will get notified in your notifications. And originally, and I think it's still part of it, they still push it into the feed.
Okay.
So, people like, well, I didn't see it in the feed, but I saw it in my notifications. So it's only notifications. You think about that feed. That feed's like a one-armed bandit in Vegas, right? You pull the lever, boom, and it stops. Well, it may have been one part of that zzz part. You never saw it, but it was there. And so the notifications are your best friend in the sense that, you can scroll down those and find them pretty easy. Go back to that particular post. So it really does both. But,
okay. So right now I'm on your profile, Kevin, and I see the bell is colored in. So I think that means I have you notified. Yes. Like I'm going to unclick it so people can see. And I just got a notification on my screen saying you'll only receive notifications for top posts from Kevin.
Yeah.
If I click it back on again, it says you'll now receive notifications for all posts from Kevin. So it's showing that notification on screen. And hypothetically, that means it will come up in my bell icon when I click on notifications. So if you do a new post, it'll come up there. But also hypothetically, you're saying we should start to see more of your posts in the homepage feed.
Every one of them. So
that's a question I get a lot. Like it seems like I'm getting a lot of stuff I don't want to see in the homepage feed, but you're saying like the bell notification can help us to control that a little bit.
Absolutely. And one of the best ways, if you've got a fairly decent sized network and you're seeing a lot of junk in that feed, one of the things that you can do is there's certain people in your network that either don't post what you want to see or don't post at all. Yeah. And you can go in there and you can technically unfollow those individuals and that will clean up the equation that creates your feed. So sometimes nonsense, right? They never post, but they're part of the math that creates my feed, makes the feed math so impossible that it just gives you whatever it can. And you get a bunch of junk. So go in there, unfollow those you don't really want to see in that feed, and then go and find the ones you do and click the bell. And that becomes kind of a new way to train that feed. The other thing is if you see something you don't like, don't comment on it because that increases how many more people are going to see that junk, right?
I'm going to show this as an example, if you don't mind, Kevin, because you're talking. I'm not, my friend Lori Jo's a sweetheart. I'm not going to unfollow her. But when I see this, I click on the 3 dots and then I can unfollow. So that means I'll stop seeing her post, but she'll stay in my feed, as opposed to if I click like I don't want to see this, that would take that post out of my feed entirely, but not.
Yeah, you have some options in there. There's about 5 filter options. including, you know, I don't want to see politics, you know, so there's other options in there. And through that, you can also, right below that, report and block.
Yeah.
So if it's something that's really offensive, maybe it wasn't in your network, but somebody in your network commented on, said, this guy's a bad person, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can go into that thing and then select not the individual who is saying they're bad, but select the individual who created the post, the author, and say, I never want to see this, right?
Okay.
That's the report and block. I always highly recommend report and block so we don't have other people infected by bad stuff, right? So
it's like weeding the garden. You want to pull the weeds so they don't grow again and they don't keep growing.
You got it.
Right. All right. We got a couple more questions. I'm going to keep us moving here and we're going to wrap in probably the next 5 to 10 minutes here. So let's see. Meg is asking, hey, Meg, nice to see you. Meg is asking, any difference between free and paid accounts, like the premium accounts these days? Have you noticed any feature changes there, Kevin?
You know, there are, and I think there's more coming. So a couple of things in the premium, you get all you can eat learning, which if you're trying to, let's say, upskill, you're trying to pivot to another type of industry, that's a great place to do that. And they even have now accredited credits for you towards college time as well. So a lot of value in that alone as part of it. The other thing is when you get into job seeking, they will always give you more information about how you compete against the competition.
Okay.
Right. So you kind of know what skills they have. You might notice if you're applying for 10 different positions that you're always missing 4 or 5 skills. Those are the ones you go to learning and learn, right? Or those are the ones you write into your content so they know you have them.
You add them in. Like maybe you have those skills and you just haven't thought about adding them on, right?
So that can be a great value. The other piece that a lot of people don't use, I think, appropriately is when you have premium, you get the last 90 days of who's looked at your profile.
Yes.
Every one of those is a potential opportunity for you. So if somebody, you know, a headhunter pops in and looks at your profile, especially if they looked at it more than once, that's an individual you go back to on their profile and you send them a message, whether it's an email or a direct message if they're open, saying, hey, I noticed you popped by my profile. I really like what you do. And we share some industry, whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. Find the connectivity, right? And ask them, how can I help you?
You know who does that really well? Beth Granger. I don't know if you know Beth. She's out of New York. She's another LinkedIn trainer. And when I used to publish the Rockstar list, I was doing it like monthly for a while. And every time I would like once a month, I would look at her profile to look at her numbers. And she would always message me back like clockwork, like the next day. Hey, I saw you looked at my profile. Are you working on the Rockstar list or something else? I mean, I think it's a really good point of finding those leads and those opportunities there.
Well, people are always asking, how do you get a recruiter to call you?
Yeah.
If you call a recruiter, they're too busy. If you send them an email, they might read it. They might download they're not going to, come back to you unless they're working on something you're a perfect fit for.
Right.
If you open their profile once a week.
Yeah. Look at their profile is what you mean,
they
right?
Will come back and say, hey, how can I help you? Because they're commissioned, right? If they land somebody with a company, they can make anywhere from 10 to 50% of your first year salary as their commission. So you pique their interest. You either want to hire them. Hey, that's money, right? Or somebody is a perfect fit for something they're working on, or you're the perfect fit for something. So if you do that, and I always think of it like leaving your digital business card on their digital desk.
I like that.
Every morning they go and they look.
You're going to become familiar, if nothing else. Maybe they don't have a job for Brenda Meller this week, but if Brenda Meller comes on my profile a couple times a month, leaves comments on there, eventually recruiters are going to look at my profile and go, oh, she's looking for a marketing director position. The next time they have one, they're going to remember Brenda's one of those good community citizens, right?
Yeah. And sometimes they'll be working on stuff for people you're connected to.
Yeah.
And they'll ask you about them, and it's all relationship building. And that's why we're here.
Absolutely. So Annette has a question. I think this is an easy one, Kevin. How do you force the LinkedIn app to update? Do you have to wait for the new version? You got to go into your app store and click on update, or is there a way to automate that process?
Yeah, you can go if it's a mobile app, right? You can go to the app store and you just tap the app that you have, and it will only update it. You don't have to delete anymore. It'll just update it. That's the fastest way.
Okay.
Will you know when that new one's out? Maybe not, but it's good to do regularly. Or if you hear of a feature that's out there and you really want it, tap that update and see if you have it. Now,
I'm going to go into mine as soon as we're done.
When they're ready, they'll give it to you.
I'm going to go into my app as soon as we're done today and make sure I'm updated because you're making me
I do
wonder
it
what.
often.
All right, 2 questions, and these are kind of related. John, hey John, how are you doing? John saying, I'm starting to see bold text in posts. When did that start? And Debbie is saying, isn't it true that bolded text is invisible to the search engine? I kind of have a thought about this. I'm wondering what you think, Kevin, and what you've heard.
Yeah, if you're using, basically it's the equivalent of an emoji for a letter, right?
Mm-hmm.
That LinkedIn, when it's doing all its algorithms on that post to see value, right? It doesn't see those things because it sees them as an emoji, not a actual letter. So you can have all sorts of fancy fonts, but LinkedIn doesn't see them. So if you're saying something really bad, like I don't like LinkedIn because blah, 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 and so at LinkedIn is blah, 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 do that in fancy text because they're never going to see it.
Oh,
Get your post, right? So that's how people put stuff out there that's not supposed to be out there that normally gets banned. That's how they do it.
Oh,
if you're
you
there
don't want to
to
give
build
good
your
people
brand,
bad ideas, Kevin, though.
well, but if you're there to build your brand, you don't want to disappear. You don't want to become bland in that sense, right? Invisible by using this. So by using it, you do. And then search engines are the same way.
Yeah.
If you take those same posts and you take the words in those posts and you put them in the search box, you probably won't find the post.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do the same thing on Google, you won't find that post. Even if you do that actual term and the author's name and LinkedIn, you won't find it on the search engines because that's a picture, not an actual text.
Yeah.
So good and bad. Visually, it might stimulate your eye to stop the scroll, right? So there's the value. Bad in the sense that it's not indexed, it's not recognized, it's not valued within the technology.
Understood. And I completely agree with you. I think there's the human element and there's the technology element. That's the way I like to say it. The human element is a lot of things are just black and white and there's not a lot of formatting. So if you put like an emoji, like a pie emoji, like I do on mine, it creates a little pop of color. But and bolding and using different things are a technique to get people's attention. But the technology element, which Kevin is describing, is it doesn't know how to read it as text. It reads it as a picture. So it kind of pushes it in the trash can. And if your goal is to come up in more searches, then you might be defeating yourself.
It's like our background banner, right? If we leave the default 3 shades of gray, or if we put a picture up there that says yellow, right?
Yeah.
Or if we put a picture up there that says, wow, in the back of my head, I'm reading it. He's a technology person, right? That's what the picture tells me. All 3 of those, LinkedIn doesn't care. It just sees it as a graphic.
See, I've always talked about the
eye.
I've always talked about that default graphic that if you don't have the header graphic, that rectangular change, I say it looks like a landscape flipped on its side. It's like a gray-green.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I don't know if I heard somebody describe it that way, but it used to be like the teal blue with the dots and the lines, and now it's something different. But
that was the galactic network. I don't know.
Like you're all connected.
I think
Kevin, this has been such a fun conversation. Gabe has a non-LinkedIn question. I thought this might be a fun question to end with today, which is it Gabe or Gabe? Do you know how to pronounce this? Gabe. So he does a really great job, you guys. And if you're not following him already, he's got a newsletter where he pushes out all of the LinkedIn Live videos that are out there, and he does a really great job.
Set up an audio event section too, and he's a Dallas guy. So
okay, good.
So
how do you maintain such a luscious beard? Is his question.
This is trimmed down. I started the year. I just shaved it all the way off. It was getting like I said it was my Father Christmas beard. Just shaved all off. I don't have a choice. This is after 5 hours of not shaving. So.
and brand consistency, Kevin, you look like your photo. A final kind of tip for us on that, and then we'll move into kind of closing us off here today. But you've got great brand consistency there. That's an important thing for us, isn't it?
Absolutely. And so many people use that high school glamour picture, right? And then you meet them and you're like, what happened on the way here?
No.
How many buses ran over you, right? If I use the picture that I started LinkedIn with, nobody would know me.
That would be a fun, like a throwback Thursday sometime. What was your first LinkedIn photo? And I think there's even a way, isn't there like someplace in your privacy and settings to see everything you've ever uploaded or your posts or things like that? I feel like it probably would be in that activity someplace we could all look up our first LinkedIn photo, right?
You can get a lot of data from LinkedIn, and that's actually something good to do every quarter. Download your data and go in there and look at the one I like the most is predictives. because that tells you what LinkedIn thinks you are.
Okay.
And if the message isn't on brand, right? If you think you're a technologist and LinkedIn says you're a typist, that's not good, right? Go into the.
I gotta look that up. I'm gonna make myself a note. Predictives, and that's in the downloads or in the privacy and settings, or where is that?
That's in the total data download.
Okay.
There'll be one called predictives, and that will give you a lot of insight of how LinkedIn sees you.
Okay.
And that also combines any outside traffic, like anything you do on Google, right?
Okay.
That's combined with their predictives of you. And so you want to change it if it's not right.
Okay. Good. I'm going to look that up. I love following you, Kevin. I learn so much from you all the time. Thank you so much for all that you do for the LinkedIn community. I pulled your profile up on screen right now, and then your LinkedIn URL is below. Now, are you open to people inviting you to connect? Do you prefer us to follow you first? What's your preference there for folks that are watching today?
Brenda, first of all, the respect is mutual. I love everything you do, and I truly appreciate it. On me, I like to follow. I like to follow others before I invite them. So follow, let's collaborate, let's get to know each other, and then decide if we're the right connection. And you and I knew each other for many years, collaborated on many different things before we even realized we weren't officially connected, right? That's a connection. That's a true connection when the invite comes later, as opposed to how many of them that I've gotten that you've gotten. We got an invite, we never heard again from them for 15 years.
This is part of the reason I always will send a personal note to connect with people on LinkedIn, because I can see our messaging history, and I can't see the year here that we, I don't know if they removed some of the history or it's not. It's just not loading
on the
yet.
Top card of my profile and you hit contact info.
But I want to look at like the first message back and forth, and sometimes you got to let it sit there and then let these messages load.
But if you hit that contact info, it'll tell you when we actually connected.
Right, like in the data in here at the bottom, right? Connected. So
July,
how crazy is that? July 21st, 2019. I know we were messaging and we were like, interacting with each other, but it was finally that date. You sent me a nice personal note. I have the history in there, and it was like, it was a warm and friendly connection at that point. It wasn't like, who's this Kevin guy? Is he going to try to sell to me? I don't need help with branding. Like, it wasn't like that. It was much more of an approachable situation. So I want to remind you guys, if you are not already doing so, please go to Kevin's profile. And Kevin, you've got a really cool URL. You personalized it. You had, in/president. How did you get that? That's like brilliant.
It was the day it came out. I was president and CEO of American Teachers. And I thought, I'll think about that, because I had president and CEO. And I went to lunch, came back, and all that was left was president.
Wow.
But I get now found every time somebody looks for the president of LinkedIn.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, kudos to you on that little bonus tip about personalizing and grabbing those handles before anyone else does. Well, I just want to thank you so much here today, Kevin. Any final comments for folks, or do you want to, tell us anything that you're working on right now that we might be interested in?
Working on a ton of stuff, but collaboration is the key. I invite anybody who's seeing anything on LinkedIn. Let's talk. Let's see what we can do. Let's see how we can get that out to help more people. Do search for audio events in your search box. If I'm in any of those audio events, come on in, join me. Just love to collaborate in that sense. So I'm not going to talk about business. That'll come.
Well, let's give you a little business plug here. If someone watching wanted to do business with you, who is that ideal client? What's that situation where you could help them with right now? Because you never know. There might be someone watching, and I'm asking you the question. You're not doing a sales pitch. I'm asking you to explain, because you never know, right?
Absolutely. Mostly people who are interested in building their brand on social media, especially with a particular focus on LinkedIn. Those are the individuals we like. Usually, they're at kind of a director, VP, CEO level, within their organizations. And we walk them through the whole process, from perfecting their brand, then building their profile, building the images to support it, and on into how do they engage? How do they build their knowledge leadership? That's what we do. And that's the client normally that appreciates us the most.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kevin. Well, maybe one of those people are watching. And if so, if you do invite Kevin to connect, just mention that you watched him on the video here today. And also, one little thing you guys could do, everybody who's watching, as soon as you're done watching this video, especially if you have not posted on LinkedIn in a long time, as soon as you're done watching, go find the video on my activity feed again. Then you can click on share and you can share it out as a post and tell people something that you learned by watching the video here today. If you tag Kevin and or me, we will comment back and we will thank you, which will push it up into your homepage feed, give you a little bit more visibility. But it's a good way of just keeping active on the platform, giving yourself out into the homepage feed again. So Kevin, thank you so much. It was such a delight talking to you today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Brenda. Thank you, and enjoy the week. Rock it.
All right, guys. Thank you, guys. And watch out for those new features. If you see anything new on LinkedIn and you haven't heard Kevin talking about it, make sure you message him.